You would see every community has issues with their kids today not listening.
No, statistical fatherless households is a real problem in the black community. We both know that. You've talked about it. Larry Elders talked about it.
I have talked about it, and then they got white folks that don't have a father.
No, it's exclusive to the black community, the statistical anomaly of it being so staggeringly high. So instead of vilifying officers for kids reaching for a gun, or for kids or people refusing to comply, yelling that they're going to shoot officers, wouldn't we say, if we want to address, we're talking about solutions, getting more fathers in the household? We don't want to cut you off, so we'll let you continue. This is web extended, so if you, like you said, you want this file for you or whatever online, if you want to take it, you can. This is my point. That assumes a hateful heart. You and I are Christians. Assumes a hateful heart on behalf of police officers. But let's be honest. Let's not try and do this shell game here. You're talking namely about white police officers. You just said at least 4 or 5 times white kids are not as much in danger, black people. So don't bring up the race issue and then say that I'm obfuscating it. I'm not. It assumes hatred, and it doesn't look at statistical realities, and it is very dangerous to preach this and to get young black people to believe it, because it's not true. It's less true than ever.
And hence, you haven't lived the life of a black person, but yet you're saying that. See what that is? From experience.
That is an intellectual fallacy. That's not fair.
Stephen, you don't want to hear that. We have experience with the stuff.
Larry Elder says the opposite.
We're not making it up, Stephen.
Larry Elder says the opposite.
That's condescending to try to say you guys just making this stuff up.
I didn't say you're making this stuff up. I said it's incorrect. I didn't say you're making this stuff up. I said it's incorrect.
So basically, you saying it's incorrect means you're making it up. It's not true.
No, it doesn't. Do you know what a lie is?
I think we all know what a lie is, Stephen.
Okay, but do you know the difference between a lie and something being incorrect?
Yes.
A lie would be, the difference would be intent. I've not applied intent here. The only person who's applied intent is you to officers. I have said you are incorrect or that information is untrue. I've not called you a liar. I'm not insinuating any manipulation.
I did not. This is what I'm telling you.
You said it's talking down to me to say I'm making this stuff up. I didn't say you're making stuff up. I said it's incorrect. Is that fair?
You said it's incorrect. Yes, you said it's correct. But what I'm telling you is that we live in this stuff. We see this stuff. I grew up seeing this stuff. We're not making it up, or it's not incorrect. This is the things that we've seen in our lives, and we're talking about it. And the problem is there are some people in this country don't want us to speak about a reality that's here for the black man and black woman in America. And I'm sorry if it doesn't make you feel comfortable. Well, you know what? If you don't like it, let's fix the issue.
You're making the issue worse.
You're
making the issue worse.
Talking about it is making it worse.
Your rhetoric saying that can I answer?
It'd be like me talking about cancer or, AIDS or something like that constantly and say, oh, you're making it worse because you keep talking about it. No, we want it fixed.
If we spoke about it in an incorrect way. If we spoke about it in an incorrect way. For example, if we told people you can cure AIDS by eating sea algae, we'd be making it worse because that'd be incorrect information. You saying the problem is officers of any color or stripe are assaulting young black men because, and you don't provide numbers or statistical realities, you cover up information, you don't address information when it changes, it's not accurate, and you are actually telling people to address a problem which isn't the right problem nor the right solution, and it makes it worse.
So, once again, this is our lives that we live in. We don't have time to play games with, let's look what the numbers say, because numbers can be fudged at any time. We have seen young black people and even older black people be pulled over for simple traffic stops, and they're not here anymore. We see a black person, like in Florida, Charles Kinsey, laying on the ground with his hands up. He gets shot. Yeah. I mean, you
know why everyone was so outraged about that? Well, so that's the one example. We've talked about that on the show. You know why people got so outraged about that? Because it's so uncommon. Everything you've just said, in nearly every instance, someone being pulled over, they're not pulled over by a simple traffic stop. I forgot, what was the name, we just forgot of the guy who was pulled over with a CPL permit. Castill. Yeah, it wasn't a simple pullover. It was a series of poor decisions, and could be an officer, again, not applying intent, who's made mistakes. We've talked about that. And this is what happened. The idea that someone's being pulled over for a speeding ticket or a parking ticket and they're lighting them up like the 4th of July is not true. When we talk about Florida, that was a horrible situation. We talked about it. Now, what did we say? It looks like a cop who really didn't know what he was doing, seemed like he was young. Turned out that was the case. However, one thing, maybe you could update me on this. Doesn't seem like there's been any serious backlash from the man himself after that. It seems like they kind of made up and were civil about it. Am I mistaken?
Well, he filed a lawsuit. Now, that's as far as I know about it. He filed a lawsuit, and I'm pretty sure he'll win that.
Sure.
But my position has always been, when you pulled over by cops, like I say, once again, I have a video done by a lawyer on my channel to tell you how to conduct yourself when you pull over a police officer. I don't tell people to run. I don't tell people to fight. I don't tell people to do anything like that. Now, that would be me putting out the wrong information.
No, saying that cops are killers or treat them like gang members is wrong information.
Yes, because we have seen that happen too many times, how they go overboard with a black person or any person that could be poor that don't have resources to fight them or maybe have some sort of connections. Because this is the thing. Let's say if it's Will Smith's kid, you're really not going to see the cops do that to Will Smith's kid. Why? Because Will Smith got money. You don't hear doctors and lawyers' kids.
I think they would do it to Jaden more readily because that kid is annoying.
Well, whatever kid you want to pick.
I think anyone would see that as an opportunity.
But what I'm saying is they know who to do that to. And unfortunately, when you're poor in this country, you can be victimized. And, there's a block of people in everybody's community, not just our community, who are poor, who are in bad situations. And if you have cops who are crooked, who are not for the right thing, then they will take advantage of that situation. I've met some decent cops right here in Houston.
Well, but you've made blanket statements about police officers, and this is the message right now. We can talk about Chicago. The message right now is
I have a video, Stephen.
Let me make my point, because I was talking after I gave you the floor. When you say those things and you have kids who are raised and believe them, they are less compliant. When they believe that Mike Brown's hands were up, don't shoot, and it's not true. When they believe that Corin Gaines, for example, was simply protecting her child when she was a child abuser, and it's not true. When they believe, for example, in Milwaukee, they don't understand that the guy in Milwaukee aimed a loaded gun at a black officer who shot him. Most of these people don't know this. We talk about the mainstream media. That's why they don't talk about it once the story's moved on. When they believe these things, and representatives like you with big YouTube channels go out and say, police officers treat them like gang members. They are killers. They will kill you. Well, guess what? That child is going to be deathly afraid of officers, including whether they're black, white, Asian, as you've said, and less likely to comply. And that's why we see and then police officers don't want to police those areas, so that's why we see directly correlated to Black Lives Matter and the modern segregation movement coming from the black left, not you, the black left, skyrocketing crime in Baltimore, skyrocketing crime in Chicago. Police don't want to show up. They're afraid of a lawsuit, and they're afraid of getting shot.
Well, you misrepresented something I really said. I just don't tell people they are killers. I would say that if you do certain things, they will kill you. They have no problem killing you because a lot of times they're afraid of you. So conduct yourself. That's what I tell them. I just don't just throw out that statement. It's a reason why I tell them that. I tell them keep your hands on the steering wheel. I tell them don't say much to them other than what you have to. I want them to stay alive at the end of the day.
Right.
Because it's not going to look good for them. And then you're going to have, is the way the system's set up, they're going to side with him.
Well, then why aren't their parents telling them? Because I was talking about that. My parents taught me hands right on the top of the steering wheel. Yes, sir. No, sir. Shut off the car. Pull over. Do not reach for anything until he asks you to give him his license. Why is it? Listen, you feel the need to say that because young black people aren't doing it. Why aren't their parents teaching them? Why is it only in the black community that they're not complying?
We have a different. Unfortunately, it's sad that you got to teach people how to deal with police. But like I was raised that way, son. You pull over by them police.
Me too.
Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Don't give them much information. If they ask for you to get your license, tell them where it's at, and then get permission from them to get it.
Right.
And put your hand right back on the steering wheel. If for some reason they want to arrest you, don't fight with them. Go ahead with them. We will get a lawyer. We'll get you out. This is what I was told, and that's the way I conduct myself on police stops.
Right.
I don't tell people in my videos, yeah, you fight with them police.
No, I know you don't. But no, I didn't say. I said the opposite. I said you're saying
like
this.
To see that.
I'm giving you credit. I'm giving you credit. I said you teach this, right? I've seen you do this. The conversation, by the way, you just said that you had with your parent is exactly what I had with my dad. Okay? White person, black person, the exact same thing. We should handle arrests the exact same way. There's a right way, and then there's a wrong way. And I'm saying, giving you credit, you are teaching that on your channel because you recognize there is a serious problem in the black community with young black people, particularly people below your generation and my generation, not doing those things. Why do you have to teach them? Why aren't their parents teaching them as your parents taught you and my parents taught me?
I can't really explain about parenting, but at the end of the day, when you talk about me and police officers, there are stories I've done on cops.
That's important. Parenting is important. Could it be because there aren't parents in the house?
The parenting issue is pretty big in this country, and that's a whole different topic.
It's not the same. Statistically, it is a real problem in the black community that it's not with other communities.
It's a problem all over. It's not just the black community. You can find when you go around and talk to different people, you will see every community has issues with their kids today now.
Statistical fatherless households is a real problem in the black community. We both know that. You've talked about it. Larry Elders talked about it.
I have talked about it, and then they got white folks that don't have a father.
No, it's exclusive to the black community, the statistical anomaly of it being so staggeringly high. So instead of vilifying officers for kids reaching for a gun, or for kids or people refusing to comply, yelling that they're going to shoot officers, wouldn't we say, if we want to address, we're talking about solutions, getting more fathers in the household?
We always support two-parent households. That's what I'm about. I'm about family.
Sure.
I'm about people staying together. But, I just can't sit here and just have you put it out there, only black people have fathers' households.
I didn't say only black
else
people.
have two parents. Well, you said, you kind of insinuating that black people are the only ones, or the leaders of all this other stuff. Like, at the end of the day, let's go with that argument. Let's say that's.
But it's not my argument. See, that's a straw man. Phil, I'm trying to improve your arguing ability here. That's not my argument. You don't get to argue against a ghost argument, a straw man that I never made. I never said only black people. So let me set my argument for you to address, because I'd like to hear what you have to say. Statistically, it is a problem, and the black community is a statistical anomaly. I have my reasons as to why I believe that is. Yours may differ. It is staggering. It is not comparable to the Asian American community. It is not comparable to the white American community. It's not comparable to Middle Eastern Americans, Jewish Americans. It is a statistic. That doesn't mean every single one, exclusive right now to the black community.
Yes, we have fatherless households. Nobody denied that. I talk about that. Most of my things, at the end of the day, I'm not focusing on other communities and what they got going on anyway.
Right.
So I'm focusing on what I got going on in the black community, and I want families to stick together. But we also have to understand, when that fatherlessness came in, it was right after that implementation of two things: that war on drugs and the Bill Clinton 3 strikes law. Now, all of a sudden, they want to talk about drug addiction is a medical issue, but before you want to criminalize it. And that's what caused a lot of the fatherlessness in the black community.
It actually goes back a lot longer than that.
Crack epidemic. Well, because all the way up to the civil rights movement, even after the civil rights movement, we still had people in the family, in the households. That's the truth.
It goes back to Lyndon Johnson, model cities, and the modern welfare state.
Well, once again, I don't agree with welfare. I don't promote it. Right. I don't want people on it. And if it was up to me, I would end it.
Right. So there we go. So we could agree probably that it's been corrosive to black families, encouraging black women to not get married and to marry the state.
For me, it's been corrosive, I think, to everybody, because it doesn't help you get to the next level.
Sure.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like I said, I don't want to hear nothing about, food stamps and all this other stuff, in which sometimes some people need help with that. I get that. But I think it just needs to be revamped, where to look at who paid into the system. If you pay into the system, in my opinion, 2 years, and they say your job will shift off to Mexico or China, I think it shouldn't matter how much you made. You should be helped because you paid into the system. But if you are a career, person that just want to stay on the system for 10, 15 years, then you need to be cut off, because obviously you're not trying to get past, your situation that you have at the time. So
you almost sounded like a Trump guy there. You said the Clintons, the 3 strikes, and then you said Mexico and China.
That's why I was getting bothered. I was getting bothered by. But I don't like to be attached to no Democrats or Republicans or nobody. I'm for the community, and I don't see those policies being helped for the past 50 years for our community. I don't see it.
No, you're right.
Because if they want to help us, well, then give us small business loans, give us grants so we can create businesses, so we can open up jobs. So, the people that's probably coming out of jail, we can hire them, because black-owned businesses hire more people out of prison than any other group of people. So let's open up businesses in our community so we can clean some things up. Because a lot of times the problem is with crime is we don't have the jobs. We don't have the jobs. Right. So if you don't have the jobs, and then you have a system that discriminates against people, no matter who it is, who go to prison, and don't want to hire them and they don't turn their life around, what else do you think they may do? They may turn right back to crime. So that's what my issue is. I'm not saying anything about Donald Trump. I don't support no political candidate.
I'm just joking. I'm just saying you said Mexico and China, and you mentioned this three strike Hillary thing, so it sounds like Donald Trump.
It's the truth. I mean, that part, it decimated our community, put literally a whole generation of black men in prison, and that's what created a big, fatherlessness issue within our community.
Well, it actually was created with Lyndon Johnson, and there was specific targeting of welfare to black communities to get them on welfare in order to buy votes. That's why it is a real problem in the black community, and like you said, you've spoken out against it. I am a big fan of that because there is an encouragement right now for women, and we've seen this in the black community, to marry effectively the state, right? There's a financial incentive to not get married, to not have a husband, as it currently stands with our welfare system. And that was by design. If you look at Detroit and the Model Cities program, we talked about it. Detroit was the wealthiest city in the country in the 50s. And then you have Jerome Kavanaugh, and by the way, entirely run by far-left Democrats, largely black people, cities like Detroit, where there's been more welfare pumped into it than ever before, and it has systematically destroyed the black family. And I think right there, you and I can find common ground. And listen, you're out there, you're doing this on your own. You're effectively a business owner. I'm sure you probably employ some people with your channels. I'd like to see a lot more people doing that in any community. We do that with our community. But I would like to see it in a way that I think is I think what we were talking about earlier, now that we've given the compliments, is being accurate in the information. And I think you have a platform, and that's important, but a lot of young black people right now, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's, whether it's white guy Sean King, I'm sure you have opinions on a guy like that. They're pushing this narrative that cops are out there and that you're a danger just for being a black kid. It's not true, and if you get enough kids to believe it, well, now you see a bigger racial divide than we've seen in decades.
Well, like I say, when it comes to my videos, that's why, sometimes I'm like, I've done videos defending police officers when I say, hey, like, he was right. And sometimes I've got attacked for it. Because So when you say accurate information, I've done videos where, I've made a mistake, had to turn around and redo it and go in on the person that was making up some false stuff. If you falsifying something, I find out, I'm going to go in on you because I get pissed off that I defended you.
Right.
That's how I operate. So, and that's why my audience is growing, is because that's black people, know that I would tell them the truth. And I tell them, look, go research it. Maybe I got it, part of it not right or whatever. Let me know. I'm doing social commentary as well with that. And this is how, we feel, or at least I feel on some situations that's happening here in this country. My thing is we want it changed. I don't want nobody to feel like they're being targeted. I don't want nobody to feel like open season. I don't want nobody to feel like that. I want everybody to live in peace.
But there's more riots. There's more riots than there have ever been in our lifetime.
I agree.
More violence.
I agree with you, and it's crazy.
So
I agree.
Does Black Lives Matter and this idea bear some responsibility for the racial divisiveness in the country because they're inaccurately telling young black people that they're at risk, and they've created a rebound effect? Is there some culpability for leaders in the black community, Black Lives Matter, and sometimes your rhetoric?
Well, I was even seeing my last Black Lives Matter video or saw an interview I did with a lady from Ferguson. So if you did, you probably wouldn't ask me those questions. But, the Black Lives Matter movement started off very good in a lot of ways because there's some things that need to be addressed. And I know some people personally in Black Lives Matter, they're just good people. They want to see some changes happen. And I've seen them do things peacefully. I've recorded them myself.
Yeah, I know, I get it. But right now, again, we have to take the whole.
Stephen, let me finish my point. What happened is, and you can go look at my videos with this, you have a lot of white liberal groups that's come in and has given money to people in Black Lives Matter in the national forefront. George Soros Open Society Foundation gave them $33 million. The black community haven't seen a dime of that. That's the stuff I'm calling out about the national people. Ford Foundation, I forgot the other one, to give them another $100
George Soros is an evil bastard.
So I'm calling this stuff out because I'm for the community at the end of the day. And I said about Black Lives Matter, I'm fine with you protesting, but I need to see action because if I had to leave Black Lives Matter, I'd probably be shot because we wouldn't be screaming no more. We may make one protest and we're going to do a Dr. King. We're about to have the strongest economic boycott they ever seen. And we would get things changed by policy because the only thing they understand in this country is money. And that's how I would do it. It'd be peaceful. Nobody be breaking nothing, destroying nothing. That's what Dr. King said.
But boycott what?
Boycott any entity. If you feel that, for instance, Instead of doing a riot, and they say in Ferguson, this is how I would have said to do it. You go to the mayor, you tell him, okay, since your police is out of control, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to shop here in this city until you get them in control, and stop doing the ticketing for revenue thing, and just stick to it until they make changes in their policy. And you shop at the cities around there, go to the other grocery stores in other cities. It would take a sacrifice until they change, and they will change. What will happen out of that? It's peaceful protest.
But what if, let me ask you this,
hold on, Stephen.
Well, hold on, because you've gone on for a while. Let me ask you, this is important. What if the city of Ferguson, or like the city of Baltimore, right? Black mayor, black city council, black judge, I mean, all black. So it wasn't like this idea of just white people without accountability. What if they came back and said, okay, but here are the statistics. Our police are actually better than the national average. They actually are not killing young black people. And they've been, so places like Ferguson or Baltimore, because a lot of them maintain that. Again, you can't do it just based on a couple of stories. What if statistically that's not true? How do you pick who to boycott?
Well, basically you're going to do it off of the pattern. For instance, like if they wanted to boycott, let's say Freddie Gray, instead of doing what they did in Baltimore, right? The people say it's wrong, the riot and all this other stuff. I don't try to advocate that. I say, okay, well, just boycott. Boycott, choose businesses, choose boycott in the city, whatever. Boycott financially. What could anybody say? See, that's the problem I have, because when I mention this, just do an economic boycott. You're not destroying businesses. You're not committing crimes.
No,
you're not throwing rocks at police. You're not doing any of that.
Right.
And nobody can stop you from holding money in your pocket.
Especially in those cities where the police are majority black.
That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing.
So, like, what about the officers with Freddie Gray, right? Three out of the 6? What do we say? Are they self-hating black people? Are they racists?
Just because you black don't mean you're for black people. Just like they get.
Oh, that sounds pretty racist to say.
So, how
for you to say? How do you get to tell someone if they're full black or not?
I didn't say full black. I said just because you black don't mean you for black people.
Oh, they said full black people. It sounded like you said full black people.
I can determine who's full and who's not.
Okay. Well, what if they're for black people by policing the neighborhoods and joining their police? And getting rid of criminals like Freddie Gray.
If they doing Freddie Gray just saw them and took off running. I don't know why he ran, but he took off running. Nobody knows why he ran. We can't ask him now. But he ran when he saw him.
So this wasn't his first encounter with the police. So that's probably why he ran. This was a long-time kid who was up to no good, who had had several run-ins, and he probably ran. Maybe he had drugs on him that he tossed. Who knows? But the whole point is you don't just run from police who aren't even shaking you down just because. I think we agree on that. So again, it was represented as a kid who was just slammed in a paddy wagon. It wasn't true. And the reason there haven't been the charges is because it's not true what happened there. And the officers, you have half the officers who were black. Maybe they are for black people. They just disagree with people like you, and they see the way of serving the black community is to join the police, to make a difference, and to get rid of people who are whether it's drug dealers, criminals who are a cancer to the black community.
Well, what do you mean people like me? I'd like to hear that. What do you mean by that?
You said just because they are black doesn't mean they're for black people. So
yeah,
what
that's
if
true.
So what if the
that's
officers in the Freddie Gray situation who are black, they are for black people, but unlike you saying maybe they're not, what if they are, but their way of being for black people, instead of criticizing the cops or painting them in a negative light, is saying, I'm going to join the police because I think there's a crime problem in the black community and I want to get rid of it.
I did a video when I asked the one of the assistant police chiefs right here in Houston, face to face. And the one thing we asked for, a lot of even the activists asked for, we wanted to see more black police officers join the force and police the black communities. This is things that's been brought up. So it's not that we're so anti-police. We want more diversity on the police force, and we would like to see them police the communities.
And I appreciate you, but that is not true in the black community. I tell you what, I have friends who are police officers. There's no one. There's no one in you and I both know this. There's no one in greater danger than a black police officer in a city like Baltimore or Detroit. We know that they have a target on their back. People who are considered snitches. Come on, we know this right now in the black. That's a real problem. People are not compliant with officers. People vilify them. People don't. They see you as an Uncle Tom if you join the police force, and a big part of that is because we've painted them as gang members for the law or as killers, right? See, it comes full circle.
Yeah, it definitely comes full circle, because when you have the bad, quote unquote, bad apples that's in the police force, instead of them getting fired, that way they messing up the integrity of the police department, they're allowed to stay. And that's really the problem. Like, the police problem could be fixed overnight if they just get all the bad ones out of the police force. And then you have some police that actually will go to the communities, talk to people. You know, of course, the media is not going to really show that. But
what about like Darren Wilson asked? Darren Wilson, for example, he's Darren Wilson with Mike Brown. Darren Wilson asked to be in a black community because he wanted to help. He was actually offered to be in a wealthier. He said, no, I want to be in this community because I want them to see a police presence and realize that we are their friends and we want to help them. Look at those people with Corn Gaines who specifically reached out, who tried to talk with the kids and be nice. The point is, you can't say who's a bad apple. We know they weren't bad apples. We know Darren Wilson wasn't a bad apple.
I've never said who was a bad apple. I was saying that every job, no matter what it is, you know who the good people are and who the people that's trying to skate by doing so they have no business. I have people that I know personally, you know, within the Houston Police Department, they even know. But if you open your mouth, it causes more problems than what it's worth. And that's what I'm saying. If you want to protect the integrity of police officers and the entity, if the American public would see cops, you know, arresting cops that they catch brutalizing someone, or cops, you know, turning other cops in, and they putting themselves out there and say, look, you know, we don't want this, we putting this out there, they will be looked at more so as like, you know, the respect would come back, because they say this is no place for crooked cops to be at. That's why people wanted the body cam thing. Because
I support that. I support certainly body cameras. You know, wherever municipalities can afford it, I think we can find some common ground there. I hate.
I think the federal government needs to pay for it. That's how I feel about it. They need to pay for it.
I think. Well, we don't have a ton of time left. Yeah, I think. Listen, I think, but they are. I mean, we did a Black Lives Matter myth debunk where we went through, what is it, something like 18 cases, and there were many instances in which where, again, errors were made and the police officers were charged and they're fired. Usually if it's something really drastic, they're charged and fired. This idea that there's no accountability, it's not statistically true. And you even look at some police officers who were going by protocol and they became a national news story and their lives are ruined. So I agree with you, get rid of them. I'm far be it for me to protect police unions, but I think the vast majority of police officers right now are certainly not taking part in some play to be shooting black people in record numbers, and the statistics don't bear that out. Phil, thank you very much. One more time, will this either go on our channel or your channel? Tell people the best place to find you.
Yes, you can find me on the Advise Show TV on YouTube. You can check me out on Twitter at Advise Show Media, also on Instagram at Advise Show Media. I'll respond one way or another.
Well, I appreciate that you're accessible with your fans. Hey, one last thing, as just a lighthearted way to leave it. Did you see the outrage with the Ellen DeGeneres Usain Bolt Photoshop?
Yes.
Did you think that was racist?
I didn't really look at it that way, but other people pointed out and saying about the history of that and all this other stuff. I didn't cover it because I'm like, that's kind of how I felt about it at the time.
Yeah. Well, I just bring that up because it seems we're getting to a point where people are just so easily offended and looking for it everywhere.
But Ellen is a comedian, and I know she do silly stuff. So if she didn't have a history of doing stuff like that, I'd probably think more into it. But Ellen has always been just silly.
Well, it started with Phelps, too. You know, the meme of being on Phelps's back. And then the Usain Bolt thing was pretty common. I was just asking. I was just wondering because that was a big uproar and people, you know, all over the place talking about they're looking for a boogeyman sometimes when there isn't one. Phil, thank you very much, sir. This is the end card. People can click wherever with these magic boxes. You know how this works on YouTube if they want to watch other videos. And, yeah. If you like this video, subscribe, because that's how you support this channel. And we're not even charging you. If you don't, we are going to personally hire Nickelback to play in your backyard. It's going to be on a loop like a morphine drip. Don't make us do it. We don't want to do it. But we will.